What's up, guys? Lance McCullers Jr. here. We are at episode 3 of our big conversation series here with Sergeant Cloud of the HPD Force. We're very happy and honored that you've come here today to speak with us on various topics.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all for having me here. I greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, before we really get going, tell me about yourself, where you're from, and what you do as a living, although it's obvious.
Great. So I grew up in the First Ward area for like the first 9 years of my life, which is really just Washington Avenue, right over the bridge here. I went to Brock Elementary School, which is now, I believe it's like a City of Houston center now. And then from there, I moved to the Greenspoint area, and I graduated from Aldine High School. And then I joined the military. I was in the Navy for 4 years. And then from there, I graduated from University of Houston downtown, joined the police department, worked in various sectors that I believe that made me well-rounded, from patrol to gangs to tactical units. And then I promoted to sergeant to help others and to lead and to help continue to innovate. And I became a community service sergeant, where basically my role is to bridge the gap between the police and the community, and then also to try and cement the relationships that we've built, because not enough emphasis is placed on cementing relationships, more so than just building them. And then from there, I got moved to Chief Victorian's office in Patrol Region 2, where that is currently where I'm at now as a special project sergeant, which is just pretty much doing the same thing, but on a bigger scale, to really just try and reach as many people as we can.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. So you're Houston through and through. And we're glad that you are in the community making a difference. So kind of piggybacking off what you said, and the areas you're working now as a sergeant, there are a lot of questions and concerns, obviously, with the current climate of everything going on with the police officers and the community. Where do you see us kind of going from here? The changes that are hopefully going to be made, and kind of the bringing back the community with HPD and with police officers all over the country.
Right, and that's a really great question. Our police department works really hard to build and cement the relationships that we have. And I know that our chief actually talks about making deposits, and the more deposits of trust that you make, the more value that your community sees in you, so that when you have things that are happening nationally, your community keeps that faith in you and what you all have built. So I think that policing has to take a turn for the better. And what I mean by that is we're going to have to plow through this. And we have to become more motivated than ever to try and find unique ways to be able to service the community, more so than trying to enforce things on people, because police legitimacy is huge, and you want buy-in from the community, and you get that through relationships. You don't get that through opposition. And so I think that we have to be more motivated than ever, and I think that we can use this time to really just plow through all the issues that we're seeing right now. It's almost like if you're going through something in your personal life, right? You can let it get you down, right, or you can use that as motivation to plow through it and be better. And we need to use this time to let it motivate law enforcement to be better, hold ourselves accountable for things, and plow through it and do whatever it takes to keep the relationships that we have, build more relationships, and then cement more relationships, and then continue to make those deposits that we want to have to build trust for the community.
It's amazing. And we in the first episode that we had, the bigs that we had on, they're little. Kelvin is a 9-year-old black boy from Houston, and he wants to be a police officer, kind of growing up. So speaking to those kids out there who, no matter what, white, black, Hispanic, what would you say to them, to those kids who are kind of seeing everything that's going on, but at the same time want to grow up and possibly be a police officer and make change?
Stay brave. Stay brave, because this situation along with other things that you're going to endure in your life, you never want to run from them. You want to face them head on. And you face them head on by being emotional, but also motivated to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to join the police department. I'm going to make change. I'm going to climb the ranks. I'm going to be a chief one day like Chief Art Acevedo. I'm going to be a chief one day like my chief Cheryl Victorian, like Chief Troy Finner, and go out and make a difference. And so rather than run from it, use this time to be heroic. And I believe George Floyd would actually be proud if the youth did that. If they said, hey, you know what? I'm going to honor him by joining. I'm going to honor him by doing right. I'm going to honor him by making the grades I need so that I can join the police department. So I think that this can be turned into a huge positive for blacks, whites, Hispanics, Asians, everybody. And so I would say be brave. Be brave and pursue what you want and never run from it. And if it's joining the police department, use that to motivate yourself and come join.
Absolutely.
And I'm more than happy to help anybody who wants to join. I tell you that right now.
That's great. And you speak about being brave, putting on, that uniform and trying to do the best you can for your community that you grew up in is something that is, extremely powerful. And, kind of explain to the people out there watching or listening that don't understand the ins and outs of, being a police officer, kind of take us through your days. You were explaining to me before we got on the difficulties you faced beyond everything that's happening, just being a police officer. Kind of explain all the things that go into that.
Right. So I could probably be 6 hours trying to explain everything. But I think one of the most significant things is trying to compartmentalize calls and service to citizens, because officers do care. So I'll give 5 different scenes that can happen in a day. And this is a typical day. So this is not one that's like odd,
right, crazy,
right. This is a norm. This is norm. A DOA, which is a dead on arrival. That means that somebody was dead. A natural DOA. A couple car accidents, family disturbance, family violence, and a drive-by shooting. And then I'll do a civil issue because maybe there are some roommates that are kind of having a little issue about who paid, who ran, and who has to leave. Okay, so every call, an officer has to get in the mind frame to service you, him or her, and then these situations, they'll affect officers. The car accidents, the dead bodies, the DOAs, because we have grandmothers, we have kids, we have wives. So sometimes if we see a kid that was on a drowning guard, that affects us too. But we have to compartmentalize that and then move to the next call, which is a car accident. Now, I can't let what happened in compartment A spill over to compartment B, because that will then affect how I service you. Then I go from compartment B to the next call, which is a family violence disturbance. Now I have to service that person. So I have to block out A and B in order to service C. And then the same thing for D, E, and then on and so forth and so on. So that takes a mental toll. And it's not easy to do. But over time, it's our norm. It's policing norm. And it's our norm to service the community. So we don't make any excuses for it. We accept it. And if you do some research, police officers have short lifespans. But we signed up for this job. And a lot of us signed up for this job knowing that. And so we don't make any excuse for it. We just do our best to say, hey, I'm not going to let compartment A go to B, because is that fair to service the person that's in B if I'm still emotional because my grandmother died 2 weeks ago? Right. See what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And then now this is a DOA call where there's a grandmother that's dead the same way that my grandmother died. But is that fair to person D? If I get angry because of A and then I make a family violence arrest to somebody that's innocent. So you have to not let one spill over into the other. It's not an easy juggle, but it's one that has to be made because that's what we do to service the community. And we just have to make sure that everything that we're doing is fair and we're creating environments that are just and equitable for the community.
Absolutely. So I think I want to talk about your daughter for a second.
Okay, yeah.
Because I've heard amazing things about your daughter. I'm a new girl dad myself.
Awesome. So happy Father's Day. Well,
yeah,
belated Father's Day too.
Yeah, to you as well. I heard she was a rock star on a Zoom call that was set up not too long ago. What have you learned from her throughout this whole process? How do you speak to her about these kind of events? And what are her goals and aspirations as a young African American female in America?
Right. So she didn't have to grow up like I grew up. I didn't have the greatest childhood. Living in two different ghettos. First ward is not the first ward that you all see now. This is the pretty first ward that y'all are getting. Fourth ward the same way. The wards that I grew up in looked nothing like this. It was terrible, but it was our home. And one thing that I do to keep my daughter grounded, because she's in a middle class area, nicer things, pools and best school districts out there in Cyprus and different things like that. I take her back to those areas though. I take her back to remind her how fortunate that she is and why it's important not to judge, why it's important not to make fun of people, why it's important to always help people. As a community service sergeant, I would take my kids to the backpack drives that we would do, to the Halloween events that we would do for the inner city kids so that they can, really see. I remember taking her on a ride. She's too young to do a ride along as a cop. So I just took her to Southeast area and we just drove around. And I was just showing her different things and she just bust out crying. And she said, I want to help as many people as I can, Daddy. And so for me, not only did it keep her grounded, but it helped her to see justice is not in the upper class. Justice is not in just the middle upper class, but it should be in the inner cities too, because they deserve it. And this has inspired her to want to go to law school. We saw the movie Just Mercy, and that really drove her to want to go to law school. So actually, here's a little secret. So I'm studying for the LSAT, and my daughter actually helps me study.
Oh, wow.
And she gets to the logic games, and she's 10, and she's pretty good. So I'll be going with her answers sometimes. Like, you think it's D? Okay. And she'll tell me why it's D, and I'm like,
Sounds
D
good to me.
sounds good to me. And sometimes she gets them right, when she's 10. So she's really been a huge blessing. I really teach her to have a voice as a woman, but also as an African-American woman as well. And I teach her to be proud of her heritage and where she comes from, and to continue to learn about those that are before you, your ancestors, because as we all know on the last Zoom call, the schools are not going to teach you everything. And parents can't either, because listen, there are so many Black heroes out there, we don't even know them all. That's fact. We have so many Black heroes. Our people have done some amazing things that go untalked about. And if it goes untalked about for centuries and years down the line, then your kids don't get them. Your kids' kids don't get them. And so I teach her to be a fire, to dig. So now, even when she asks me questions, she'll ask another question, and then she'll ask one on top of that. But that's that mindset to dig, and to fight for what you want. So she's a huge blessing.
Yeah, and that's one of the main things at Big Brothers Big Sisters that as an organization I'm very proud to be a part of, because we are trying to get to that. To those next generation of kids, the kids that are going to be our policemen, the kids that are going to be our lawyers, our presidents, our anything and everything. We're trying to impact, that level of communities that you were speaking on.
Yes.
We want to give everyone here at Big Brothers Big Sisters the greatest opportunity to be the best version of themselves. And so it's awesome to hear how passionate your daughter is. And so, to wrap this up, the purpose of these conversations to be transparent, is to be organic. We want people to be able to watch this and really understand what the message we're pushing is. And we know as a citizen of Houston, I know there's a different version of you that has to put on the uniform every day, and another version of you that is outside the uniform every day. But as someone who wears the blue and is proud of that, and is a Houston through and through, you have the platform here for people to be listening. So what is the one thing that you just want to really tell people, either as a Houston citizen or as a HPD sergeant, to those, what the message that you want to send?
Right. So first, I think the message that I want to send is we're going to continue to strive for great policing. And I think that one of the things that I like about our department is we set a goal, and as soon as we meet it, we're trying to beat that goal. And so we're always trying to climb a ladder that is high, and the bar is always set high. And an example of that, to give premise to what I'm talking about, is the protest, right? We've all witnessed it nationally, and I feel like Houston set the bar.
Absolutely.
With the way that we did that, and we had minimal people hurt. We didn't have anybody tear gassed, and people getting stabbed and shot out there and going crazy. So I want to thank the mayor, all of our chiefs, our executive staff, command staff. They did a great job, and the foot soldiers, the grunts on the ground, all the officers, all the SRG, all our gang units, our crime suppression teams. Everybody did a great job with coming together to make sure that the protests were peaceful, but that also people's voices were heard. And we even went as far out as to try and go out there and meet these people, and to create a more intimate style of relational policing. And so I just want people to really know that this has affected us, both situations, and it's something that we not only take notes on, but we try and put things into play that are actionable. And again, making those trust deposits are so important. And our department is not going to let this incident set us back to the point to where we have no trust. And we're going to continue to fight to get that trust. And we'll do whatever it takes to make sure that our citizens are trusting us, believing in us. And that's really one thing that, with the uniform on, I'm very passionate about. Outside of the uniform, I'm a black man. And so I have some of the same fears as well as other black men. And I'm not afraid to say that. There's been times where I've been stopped, and I get a little nervous naturally because I am black. Doesn't mean I'm not doing anything wrong, but I am a black man, and so I do get a little nervous. But nervousness is not necessarily a bad thing, and I don't want people to feel that because you're nervous that you shouldn't listen to the police, that you shouldn't comply with lawful orders, that you shouldn't do those things, because again, when I'm stopped, I'm telling you, my hands are 10-2, and I'm following all the instructions that are given to me. I don't go, well, I'm HPD, I can just do whatever it is I want to do. So I just want to let people know that I'm human outside this uniform, and I do the best I can to follow the law, and to make sure that if it's a traffic stop or if I'm stopped for different reasons, that I just be polite, I'm courteous, and for me, again, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, I've had pretty decent outcomes. And so I just don't want people to take this time out to be violently rebellious, because I don't think that that's going to help anything. But better believe that the Houston Police Department is going to continue to set the bar. And this won't be the only bar. I guarantee you, probably in the next 2 weeks, we're trying to set a new bar and a new bar. And that's what it takes to service the community, because Houston is always growing. It's always growing from a economic standpoint, from a nationality standpoint. So we're never resting here, and we're always trying to do everything that we can. So I think I'll leave you guys with those two things, definitely.
Well, can't thank you enough for coming on. It's clear that you're the best version of what we all should strive to be, and who puts on the uniform. And we appreciate your sacrifice and your bravery, and we are excited to hear that the HPD is continuously pushing benefit and try to help the community in the safest, most efficient way possible. So thanks for coming on.
Definitely. Thank y'all for having me.